Maya Thompson could have kept walking past the register, but something in the elderly man's eyes wouldn't let her. His weather hands trembled as he fumbled with a handful of coins, counting and recounting them with growing desperation. "Sir, is everything all right?" Maya asked, her voice soft with concern. The old man looked up, his rheumy eyes filled with embarrassment. "I thought I had enough for a hot meal, but—" Maya glanced at the clock. Her shift had ended 10 minutes ago, and her aching feet begged for rest. But the man's hollow cheeks and threadbare coat tugged at her heart. "Don't worry about it," she said, reaching for her own wallet. "I've got this one." As she handed over the money to her co-worker at the register, a sharp voice cut through the diner's ambient chatter. "What do you think you're doing, Thompson?" Maya's stomach dropped. Tony Rivers, the diner manager, strode towards her, his face a mask of disapproval. "I was just breaking company policy," Tony interrupted, his voice rising. Again. The elderly man shrunk back, his eyes darting between Maya and Tony. "It's just a meal, Tony," Maya protested, heat rising to her cheeks. He needed help. Tony's jaw clenched. "Rules are rules, Thompson. This isn't a charity." "But—" "No buts. You're fired. Clean out your locker and leave. Now." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She stood frozen, aware of the customer's eyes on her, the old man's look of dismay, the triumphant gleam in Tony's eyes. "Fine," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. She untied her apron with shaking hands and walked out, leaving behind the only job she'd known for the past 5 years. Outside, the crisp autumn air did nothing to cool the burning in her cheeks. Maya leaned against the brick wall, trying to steady her breathing. How would she tell Leo? How would they manage without her income? Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her son. "Where are you? Grandpa needs his meds." Reality crashed back in. She couldn't afford to wallow. Her family needed her. The bus ride home was a blur of worry and regret. Maya's mind raced through job possibilities, budget cuts, anything to keep their heads above water. By the time she reached their small apartment, her resolve had hardened. She'd find a way. She always did. Leo met her at the door, his lanky frame filling the narrow hallway. "Mom, you're late. Grandpa's been asking for you." "I know, I'm sorry." Maya squeezed past him, heading for her father's room. "How is he?" Leo shrugged, following her. "Same as always." "What happened? You look off." Maya paused, her hand on the doorknob. She forced a smile. "Nothing to worry about. I'll tell you later." Frank Thompson sat propped up in bed, his once strong hands curled loosely in his lap. His face brightened as Maya entered. "There's my girl," he said, his voice a raspy whisper. "Thought you'd forgotten about your old man." Maya's smile became genuine as she sat beside him, reaching for the pill organizer on the nightstand. "Never, Dad. How are you feeling today?" As she helped him with his medication, Maya's mind wandered to the elderly man at the diner. How many others like him were out there, struggling alone? "You've got that look," Frank said, studying her face. "What's troubling you, Maya?" She hesitated, then told him about the incident at the diner. Frank listened quietly, his eyes never leaving her face. "You did the right thing," he said when she finished. "Kindness always pays off, even if the timing isn't right." Maya squeezed his hand. "I hope you're right, Dad. I really do." That night, after Leo had gone to bed, Maya sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by job listings and bills. Her phone lit up with a text from Kathy, her friend and co-worker from the diner. "Heard what happened. Tony's a jerk. Let me know if you need anything." Maya appreciated the support, but it did little to ease the knot in her stomach. She was about to reply when another text came through, this one from an unknown number. "Maya Thompson, this is Ethan Roberts. I'd like to meet with you regarding a job opportunity. Please call me at your earliest convenience." Maya stared at the screen, baffled. Ethan Roberts. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place it. A job opportunity. It seemed too good to be true, but she was in no position to be picky. With trembling fingers, she dialed the number. The next morning, Maya stood outside a sleek office building in the heart of downtown, her best blazer feeling shabby compared to the suits streaming past her. She took a deep breath and pushed through the revolving door. The receptionist directed her to the top floor, where a young man in an impeccable suit greeted her with a warm smile. "Miss Thompson, I'm Ethan Roberts. Thank you for coming on such short notice." As they shook hands, Maya's mind finally made the connection. Roberts, the real estate empire. This man was heir to one of the city's largest fortunes. "Please have a seat," Ethan said, gesturing to a plush chair across from his desk. "I understand you recently lost your job at Riverside Diner." Maya's cheeks flushed. "Yes, but..." Ethan held up a hand. "No need to explain. I know exactly why you were fired, and that's precisely why I asked you here today." He leaned forward, his expression serious. "Miss Thompson, what would you say if I told you that the elderly man you helped yesterday was my father?" Maya's mouth fell open. "Your father?" Ethan nodded. "Henry Roberts. He's a bit of an eccentric, I'm afraid. Likes to test people's generosity by posing as a destitute old man." "I don't understand," Maya said, her head spinning. "Why would he do that?" "To find people like you, Miss Thompson. People with genuine kindness and integrity." Ethan's smile returned. "Which brings me to why you're here. I'm opening a new high-end cafe, and I need a manager I can trust. Someone who understands the importance of compassion in business." Maya's heart raced. "Mr. Roberts, I'm flattered, but I don't have any experience managing a cafe. You have something far more valuable: character. The rest can be learned." He slid a folder across the desk. "This is my offer. Take some time to think it over." Maya opened the folder, her eyes widening at the salary figure. It was more than double what she'd made at the diner. I don't know what to say," she stammered. "Say yes," Ethan replied with a chuckle. "We'll iron out the details later. What do you say, Miss Thompson? Ready for a new chapter?" Maya thought of Leo, of her father, of all the struggles they'd faced. She thought of the elderly man, Henry, and how a simple act of kindness had led her here. She met Ethan's gaze, her decision made. "Yes, Mr. Roberts, I'm ready." As Maya left the building, her step lighter than it had been in years, she didn't notice the figure watching her from across the street. Dylan Matthews, her former co-worker from the diner, observed her with narrowed eyes, his fists clenched at his sides. "Enjoy it while it lasts, Maya," he muttered. "Your luck's about to run out." The aroma of freshly ground coffee beans and warm pastries filled the air as Maya pushed open the doors of Ethan's new cafe, the Golden Grind. Her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was her chance to prove herself, to build a better life for her family. The sleek, modern interior gleamed under soft lighting. Baristas bustled behind a polished counter, their movements a well-choreographed dance. Maya took a deep breath, straightened her blazer, and strode towards the staff area. Well, look who it is." Maya froze. That voice. She turned to see Dylan Matthews leaning against the doorframe, a smirk playing on his lips. "Dylan, what are you doing here?" He pushed off the frame, sauntering towards her. "I work here, assistant manager. Ethan hired me last week." Maya's stomach twisted. "I see. Well, I look forward to working with you." Dylan's eyes narrowed. "Do you?" "Because I sure as hell don't look forward to working under you." Before Maya could respond, Ethan appeared, his presence immediately diffusing the tension. Maya, welcome to your first day. I see you've met Dylan. He'll be assisting you as you get settled in." Maya forced a smile. "Wonderful. Thank you, Ethan." As Ethan walked away, Dylan leaned in close. "Don't get too comfortable, Maya. Some of us actually earned our positions here." The words stung, but Maya refused to let it show. She had a job to do, and she was determined to excel. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of training meetings and learning the intricacies of running a high-end cafe. Maya threw herself into the work, desperate to prove her worth. But as she delved deeper into the cafe's operations, something felt off. One evening, as she pored over financial reports, a discrepancy caught her eye. A series of transactions didn't add up. She frowned, digging deeper into the numbers. A sharp knock startled her. Dylan stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Burning the midnight oil. Maya hesitated, then decided to take a chance. Actually, I'm glad you're here. I've noticed some irregularities in these reports. Take a look. She held out the papers, but Dylan made no move to take them. It's probably nothing, he said, his tone dismissive. Mark handles all that stuff. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. Maya's instincts prickled. Still, I think we should. Look, Dylan cut her off, his voice sharp. You're new here. Don't go making waves over nothing. It won't end well for you. He turned and left, leaving Maya with a growing sense of unease. At home, Maya found Leo sprawled on the couch, the TV blaring. Textbooks lay forgotten on the coffee table. Leo, why aren't you studying? He shrugged, not looking away from the screen. What's the point? It's not like we can afford college anyway. Maya's heart sank. She sat beside him, turning off the TV. Hey, look at me. We'll figure out, okay? Things are going to get better. I promise. Leo met her gaze, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and doubt. Yeah, sure. Whatever you say, Mom. The next day, Maya arrived at the cafe early, determined to get to the bottom of the financial discrepancies. As she approached her office, she heard voices from inside. Can't keep this up forever. She's going to figure out. Relax. I've got it under control. Maya recognized the voices. Dylan and Mark Franklin, the cafe's accountant. She pressed herself against the wall, straining to hear more. You'd better, Dylan hissed. If this goes south, we're both. The conversation cut off abruptly. Maya quickly ducked into a nearby storage closet as the office door opened. Her mind raced. What were they hiding? And how deep did this corruption go? Over the next few days, Maya noticed a shift in the cafe's atmosphere. Doors slammed shut when she approached. Conversations hushed as she entered rooms. And always, Dylan's eyes followed her, watchful and wary. One afternoon, as Maya sorted through invoices, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello. Silence. Then, a click as the line went dead. This wasn't the first strange call she'd received lately. A chill ran down her spine. That evening, as Maya locked up the cafe, she heard footsteps behind her. She whirled around, keys clutched like a weapon. Whoa, easy there. It was Kathy, a waitress from morning shift. Sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Maya relaxed, but only slightly. It's fine. What are you doing here so late? Kathy hesitated, then lowered her voice. I've noticed some weird stuff going on. With the finances, I mean. And I overheard Dylan and Mark talking about cooking the books. I thought you should know. Maya's suspicions crystallized into certainty. Thank you, Kathy. I've noticed it too, but we need proof. Kathy nodded, determination in her eyes. I'm with you, whatever you need. As days passed, Maya and Kathy worked in secret, gathering evidence of the financial scheme. But their efforts didn't go unnoticed. One morning, Maya arrived to find her office in disarray. Papers strewn about, drawers hanging open. A warning. She stormed into the main area, where Dylan was chatting with a group of employees. We need to talk, now. Dylan's smile never faltered. Of course, boss. What's on your mind? In private, Maya growled. They moved to a secluded corner. Maya's voice was low, fierce. I know what you and Mark are up to. The doctored receipts, the missing funds. It ends now. Dylan's facade cracked, revealing a flash of panic before smoothing over. I don't know what you're talking about, but throwing around baseless accusations, that's a dangerous game, Maya. It's not a game, and it's not baseless. I have proof. Dylan's eyes hardened. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're the one cooking the books. Trying to cover your tracks by blaming others? TSK. Maya's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Oh, I think you know. And I think Ethan would be very interested to hear about it. Your job, your reputation. It would all be gone. Just like that. He snapped his fingers, the sound echoing in Maya's ears. You wouldn't, she whispered. Dylan leaned in close. Try me. As he walked away, Maya's mind reeled. She had underestimated him, underestimated how far he would go to protect himself. And now, everything she had worked for was at risk. That night, Maya sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by financial documents and scribbled notes. Her father's labored breathing drifted from the next room, a constant reminder of what was at stake. Leo appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of teenage sullenness. Mom, there's no food. Maya looked up, startled. She had completely forgotten about dinner. I'm sorry, sweetie. I've been distracted. How about we order pizza? Leo's expression softened slightly. Yeah, okay. Are you? Is everything all right? Maya forced a smile. Of course. Just some work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. As Leo retreated to his room, Maya's resolve hardened. She couldn't let Dylan and Mark win. Not just for her sake, but for her family's. The next morning, Maya arrived at the cafe early, determination stealing her nerves. She marched straight to Dylan's office, where she found him hunched over his computer. We need to talk. Dylan looked up, annoyance flashing across his face. Again, I thought we settled this yesterday. Maya slammed a folder on his desk. Look at these. Proof of your embezzlement scheme. Every doctored receipt, every misplaced fund. It's all here. Dylan's face paled as he flipped through the documents. Where did you get these? It doesn't matter. What matters is that it stops now, or I take this to Ethan. For a moment, Maya thought she had won. Then Dylan's expression shifted, a cruel smile spreading across his face. Oh, Maya, you really should have left well enough alone. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Mark, could you come in here and bring those files we discussed? Maya's heart raced. What are you doing? Dylan's voice was cold, showing you what happens to people who don't know their place. Mark entered, carrying a thick folder. He avoided Maya's gaze as he handed it to Dylan. See this. Dylan held up a document. It's a detailed record of your own embezzlement. Dates, amounts, everything. And it all leads back to you. Maya's world tilted. That's impossible. I never. It doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. What matters is what Ethan will believe. And trust me, he'll believe this. The realization hit Maya like a physical blow. They had set her up, created a perfect paper trail to frame her for their crimes. You won't get away with this, she whispered. Dylan's laugh was harsh. I already have. Face it, Maya, you're finished. As Maya stumbled out of the office, her mind reeling, she bumped into Kathy. Maya, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Maya grabbed Kathy's arm, her voice urgent. We need to talk, now. As they huddled in a secluded corner, Maya poured out everything that had happened. Kathy listened, her expression growing more horrified with each word. Those bastards, she hissed. We can't let them get away with this. Maya shook her head, despair creeping in. I don't see how we can stop them. They've thought of everything. Kathy's eyes narrowed, a determined glint appearing. Maybe not everything. I have an idea, but it's risky. Are you willing to take a chance? Maya thought of her father, of Leo, of everything she stood to lose. She met Kathy's gaze, her resolve hardening. I'm in, whatever it takes. As they began to plan, Maya felt a flicker of hope. She had underestimated Dylan and Mark, but they had underestimated her too. And she wasn't going down without a fight. Maya's fingers trembled as she dialed Ethan's number. Each ring echoed her racing heartbeat. She had to make him listen, had to make him see the truth before Dylan and Mark's lies took root. Maya, what's so urgent? Ethan's voice crackled through the speaker. We need to talk. In person. It's about the cafe. A pause. I'm afraid I'm quite busy at the moment. Perhaps next week. No. Maya cut in, desperation edging her voice. "It has to be now. Please, Ethan." Another pause, longer this time. "Very well. Meet me at the office in an hour." The line went dead. Maya exhaled, her shoulders sagging. One chance. That's all she had. An hour later, Maya stood before Ethan's imposing mahogany desk. The man himself sat behind it, his expression unreadable. "Well." Ethan's fingers drummed an impatient rhythm. "What's this about?" Maya took a deep breath. "There's been embezzlement at the cafe. Dylan and Mark." "Stop." Ethan's voice cut like a knife. "I've heard enough of these accusations. Mark has already shown me the evidence of your own misconduct." The blood drained from Maya's face. "What? No, that's not. I trusted you, Maya. I gave you a chance when no one else would. And this is how you repay me." "Ethan, please. They're framing me. I can prove it if you'll just listen." But Ethan was already standing, his face a mask of disappointment. "I think it's best if you leave. Now." Maya's world crumbled around her as she stumbled out of the office. In the hallway, she collided with a solid form. Dylan's smug grin swam into focus. What's wrong, Maya? Things not go your way?" She shoved past him, bile rising in her throat. How had it come to this? At home, Maya found Leo sprawled on the couch, eyes glued to his phone. The sight of him, oblivious to her turmoil, sparked a surge of frustration. "Leo, we need to talk." He barely glanced up. "Can't it wait? I'm in the middle of something." "No, it can't wait." Maya snatched the phone from his hands. "This is important." Leo's face contorted with anger. "What the hell, Mom? Give it back." "Not until you listen to me. Things are bad, Leo. I might lose my job. We might have to move." The anger on Leo's face melted into shock, then fear. "What? Why? What happened?" As Maya explained the situation, leaving out the more sordid details, she watched her son's expression cycle through disbelief, anger, and finally, a resigned sort of acceptance. "So, what are we going to do?" Leo's voice was small, vulnerable in a way she hadn't heard in years. Maya pulled him into a hug, her own fears momentarily pushed aside. "We'll figure out. Together." That night, as Maya lay awake, her mind racing with possible solutions, a soft knock came at her bedroom door. "Mom." Leo's head poked in. "I can't sleep." Maya patted the bed beside her. Leo crawled in, curling up like he used to when he was little. For a moment, they just lay there in silence. "I'm sorry," Leo whispered, "for being such a jerk lately." Maya's throat tightened. "Oh, sweetie, it's okay. We've all been under a lot of stress. I want to help. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it." In that moment, Maya felt a surge of love and pride so strong it almost overwhelmed her. "Thank you, Leo. That means more than you know." The next morning, Maya arrived at the cafe early, determination stealing her spine. She may have lost Ethan's trust, but she wasn't about to give up. As she approached her office, voices drifted through the partially open door, getting suspicious. "We need to move the money now." Maya froze. That was Dylan's voice. "Relax," came Mark's reply. "I've got it under control. Once the transfer goes through tonight, we'll be in the clear, and Maya will take the fall." Heart pounding, Maya eased the door open a fraction more. Dylan and Mark stood hunched over a laptop, oblivious to her presence. "There," Mark said, pointing at the screen. "Once I hit this button, the money will be transferred to our offshore account. Untraceable." Dylan grinned. "And good riddance to Maya Thompson." Maya's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. She had them. She finally had the proof she needed. But as she turned to leave, her elbow knocked against the door. The soft thud echoed like a gunshot in the quiet office. Dylan's head snapped up. "Who's there?" Maya ran. Her footsteps thundered down the hallway, Dylan and Mark's shouts close behind. She burst into the main cafe area, startling the early morning staff. "Stop her!" Dylan yelled. Maya dodged around tables and chairs, her lungs burning. She had to get out, had to find Ethan. A hand grabbed her arm, yanking her back. She spun, coming face to face with Mark's snarling visage. "You little bye." A blur of motion, and suddenly Mark was sprawled on the floor. Kathy stood over him, a serving tray clutched in her hands like a weapon. "Run, Maya." Maya didn't need to be told twice. She sprinted for the exit, bursting out onto the street. Her feet pounded the pavement as she raced towards Ethan's office building. Behind her, she could hear Dylan's voice growing fainter. "You can't run forever, Maya." But she didn't need forever. She just needed long enough to reach Ethan. Maya burst into the lobby, startling the receptionist. "I need to see Ethan Roberts. Now. It's an emergency." "I'm sorry, but Mr. Roberts is in a meeting." Maya was already moving past her, ignoring the woman's protests. She took the stairs 2 at a time, her legs burning with the effort. Finally, she reached Ethan's floor. She could see him through the glass walls of the conference room, surrounded by men in suits. Without hesitation, Maya pushed open the door. "Ethan, I can prove it. Dylan and Mark are the ones embezzling. I overheard them." "What is the meaning of this?" One of the suited men stood, his face flushed with anger. Ethan held up a hand. "It's all right, gentlemen. Give us a moment." He turned to Maya, his expression a mix of confusion and irritation. "Maya, what are you talking about?" Maya's words tumbled out in a rush. She told him everything she'd overheard about the offshore account, about Dylan and Mark's plan to frame her. As she spoke, she saw the doubt in Ethan's eyes slowly give way to concern, then anger. "These are serious accusations, Maya, if what you're saying is true." The door burst open again. Dylan stood there, panting, his usually immaculate appearance disheveled. "Don't listen to her, Ethan. She's lying. She's the one who—" "Enough." Ethan's voice cut through the chaos. He turned to his assistant. "Call security and the police. I want a full audit of the cafe's finances. Now." The next few hours passed in a blur. Police swarmed the cafe, seizing computers and documents. Maya watched as Dylan and Mark were led away in handcuffs, their faces a mixture of rage and defeat. As the dust settled, Ethan approached Maya. "I owe you an apology. I should have listened to you from the beginning." Maya nodded, too exhausted for words. "I'd like to offer you a promotion," Ethan continued. "Head of operations for all our cafe locations. You've more than proven yourself." Maya blinked, stunned. It was everything she'd ever wanted, a chance to secure her family's future. "And yet, I'm honored, Ethan. But I think I need some time to think about it." Ethan nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Of course. Take all the time you need." That evening, Maya sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by her family. Leo and her father listened intently as she recounted the day's events. "So what are you going to do, Mom?" Leo asked. "Are you going to take a job?" Maya looked at her son, then at her father. She thought of all they'd been through, of the struggles and the triumphs. "I don't know," she said honestly. "It's a great opportunity, but it's not what truly makes you happy," her father finished, a knowing smile on his face. Maya nodded, surprised at the sudden clarity she felt. "You're right, it's not." "So what does make you happy?" Leo asked. Maya thought of the elderly man she'd helped all those weeks ago, of the small acts of kindness that had led her here. "Helping people," she said softly. "Making a difference, even if it's just in small ways." Her father reached out, squeezing her hand. "Then that's what you should do." As Maya looked at her family, a plan began to form in her mind. It wouldn't be easy, but nothing worth doing ever was. "I think," she said slowly, "I'm going to open my own cafe, a place where kindness and integrity come first, where we help people, not just serve them coffee." Leo's face lit up. "That's awesome, Mom. Can I help?" Maya laughed, pulling him into a hug. "Of course you can. We'll do it together." As they began to plan, excitement building with each idea. Maya felt a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but she knew she was on the right path. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness could create the biggest waves. And Maya was ready to make some waves of her own. Maya's fingers hovered over her phone, trembling with indecision. The evidence she gathered against Dylan and Mark felt like a ticking bomb in her pocket. One call to Ethan could blow everything wide open, but the risks. A harsh cough from the next room jolted her back to reality. Her father's health was deteriorating rapidly, and Leo's latest suspension notice glared at her from the kitchen counter. She was running out of time and options. Maya took a deep breath and dialed. "Ethan, we need to talk. It's about the cafe." His response was curt, businesslike. "My office. 1 hour." The drive to Ethan's building felt like a journey to the gallows. Maya rehearsed her case in her head, each scenario ending in disaster. As she stepped into the elevator, her phone buzzed with a text from Leo. "Grandpa's worse. Where are you?" Maya's heart clenched. She typed back quickly. "On my way. Hang in there." The elevator doors opened, revealing Ethan's imposing office. He sat behind his desk, face unreadable. "Make it quick, Maya. I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. Maya steeled herself and placed a small recording device on his desk. "Listen to this first." She pressed play, and the room filled with Dylan and Mark's voices discussing their embezzlement scheme in damning detail. Ethan's expression shifted from skepticism to shock, then anger. "Where did you get this?" "I recorded it yesterday. There's more." Maya pulled out a folder of financial documents. Proof of their money transfers, doctored receipts, everything. Ethan's face hardened as he flipped through the papers. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" "I tried, but they were always one step ahead, covering their tracks, threatening me. I needed ironclad proof." A heavy silence fell over the room. Ethan's jaw worked as he processed the information. "I'll need time to verify all this. In the meantime." Maya's phone erupted in a cacophony of rings and buzzes. Leo's name flashed on the screen. "I'm sorry, I have to take this. It's my son." Ethan nodded, his expression softening slightly. "Leo, what's wrong?" Her son's voice came through, panicked and breathless. "Mom, it's Grandpa. He collapsed. The ambulance is here. You need to come home now." The world tilted on its axis. Maya gripped the edge of Ethan's desk to steady herself. "I'm on my way. Tell them I'll meet you at the hospital." She ended the call, her mind reeling. Ethan was already on his feet, concern etched across his face. "Go," he said simply. "We'll deal with this later." Maya nodded gratefully and bolted for the door. As she reached the threshold, Ethan called out, "Maya, for what it's worth, I believe you." The drive to the hospital was a blur of red lights and near misses. Maya burst through the emergency room doors, scanning frantically for Leo. She found him huddled in a corner, looking small and lost. When he saw her, he launched himself into her arms. "Mom, I'm sorry. I should have been watching him closer. Maya held him tight, her own fears momentarily pushed aside. "Sho, it's not your fault. Where is he now?" A doctor approached, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Thompson, your father is stable, but his condition is critical. We need to operate immediately." The next few hours passed in an agonizing haze of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smells. Maya and Leo huddled together in the waiting room, each lost in their own thoughts. As dawn broke, casting long shadows through the hospital windows, Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Evidence checks out. Dylan and Mark arrested this morning. We need to talk when you're ready." Relief washed over Maya, quickly followed by guilt. How could she feel anything positive when her father's life hung in the balance? The doctor's return snapped her back to the present. "Mrs. Thompson, your father made it through surgery. He's weak, but stable. You can see him now." Frank lay in the hospital bed, a web of tubes and wires connecting him to softly beeping machines. His eyes fluttered open as Maya and Leo entered. "There's my girl," he rasped, a ghost of his usual smile on his lips. "And my boy, what's with the long faces?" Maya choked back a sob, squeezing his hand. "You gave us quite a scare, Dad." Frank's eyes twinkled with a hint of his old mischief. "Can't get rid of me that easy. Now, what's this I hear about you taking down some corporate crooks?" Maya blinked in surprise. "How did you?" Leo shuffled his feet, looking sheepish. "I might have filled him in while you were talking to the doctor." For the first time, in what felt like years, Maya laughed. The sound was rusty, but genuine. "It's a long story, Dad, but it's over now. We're going to be okay." Frank nodded, his eyelids growing heavy. "I always knew you would be. You've got a good heart, Maya. Don't ever lose that." As Frank drifted off to sleep, Maya felt a shift in the air, a sense of possibility, of hope. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of hospital visits, legal meetings, and late-night conversations with Leo. Slowly but surely, the pieces of their lives began to fall back into place. Frank's recovery was slow but steady. Leo's grades improved as he threw himself into helping care for his grandfather. And Maya found herself at a crossroads. Ethan had been true to his word. Dylan and Mark faced serious charges, and the cafe's reputation was salvaged. But as Maya sat in Ethan's office once again, she felt a strange sense of detachment from all. "I want you to take over as regional manager for all our cafes," Ethan said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "After what you've done, it's the least we can offer." Maya studied the man across from her. His offer was generous, more than she could have ever hoped for just a few months ago. But something held her back. "Ethan, I'm grateful, truly, but I don't think I can accept." His eyebrows shot up in surprise. "May I ask why?" Maya chose her words carefully. "This whole experience has taught me something about what really matters to me, and it's not climbing the corporate ladder or managing a chain of cafes." "What is it then?" A smile tugged at Maya's lips. "Making a difference. In small ways, every day. The kind of difference that starts with a cup of coffee and a kind word." Understanding dawned in Ethan's eyes. "You want to open your own place?" Maya nodded. "A small cafe, where kindness and integrity come first. Where we help people, not just serve them coffee." Ethan leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, my father would approve. He always said the measure of a person isn't in how much they have, but in how much they give." He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a check. "Consider this a thank you, and an investment in your new venture." Maya's eyes widened at the amount. "Ethan, I can't." He held up a hand. "You can, and you will. Just promise me one thing. When you're up and running, save a good table for an old man who likes to test people's kindness." Tears pricked at Maya's eyes as she nodded. "Deal." 3 months later, Maya stood in front of a small storefront, the fresh paint gleaming in the morning sun. A hand-painted sign hung above the door. "Second Chances Cafe." Leo bounced on his toes beside her, practically vibrating with excitement. "Can I flip the sign to open now? Please." Maya laughed, ruffling his hair. "Go for it, kiddo." As Leo rushed to the door, Maya felt a presence at her side. Frank stood there, leaning on his cane, but looking stronger than he had in months. "You did good, Maya," he said softly. "Your mother would be proud." Maya's throat tightened with emotion. She squeezed her father's hand, words failing her. The bell above the door chimed as their first customer entered. Maya straightened her apron and stepped forward, a warm smile on her face. "Welcome to Second Chances. What can I get for you today?" As she listened to the elderly woman's order, Maya felt a sense of rightness settle over her. This was where she belonged. This was her chance to create ripples of kindness that would spread far beyond these walls. And as she poured the first cup of coffee, Maya knew that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could indeed create the biggest waves. The end.